Hello everybody, how you doing? Today we're going to talk about the Sony FX2. And it's just going to be a brief video because I want to give you a sense as a potential user or buyer of this camera, where it fits in within their whole ecosystem and what the intended user base is. I had the camera for a couple days. Sony asked me to actually go collect some footage for some event displays, so I'd be playing on TVs during different sort of marketing or sales events and things like that. They wanted some sort of local footage here in Toronto. So you're gonna see a bunch of that footage while I talk about the camera. And I'm gonna give you sort of my hands-on experience with the camera in terms of where I think it places, as I mentioned. My strength, I think, in terms of if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I will compare some of the tech stuff. I will go in and test things out when I think it's important for the narrative of that camera. But I really want to always parse out, okay, well, this and that spec might be important, might be talked about a lot, but practically speaking, from a user end, that may or may not be an issue. And I'll get more into that towards the end of this video. And I'm really just improvising here. I'm talking right off the cuff. I have no script. I'm going off 100% of my experience and my feelings about this camera. The first thing that we have to address is what this camera is. It is a hybridized camera taken from other Sony products, and then you add a couple new features. So it is an FX body with a new eyepiece and a new fan. Then you take an A7 IV sensor, and then you take some new firmware technology from the A1 or the A7 R5. When we look at where it places, obviously it places price-wise between the FX30 and the FX3. It is a full-frame camera, making it a little bit more expensive than the FX30. If you were a photographer first and a video maker second, you would probably right to stay with the A7 IV because of the form factor in general. You could make an argument that the updated algorithm and the updated focus and AI on the FX2 is worthy of buying that over the A7 IV. The A7 IV is still considerably cheaper. You have to kind of mix out how you see yourself using that camera. This is the reverse of the A7 IV as far as I can see. It is a cinema-focused version, photo second, because it's giving you that 33 megapixel still image that the FX30 and the FX3 are not capable of doing. Of course, as you've probably heard, there's a trade-off for this. The trade-off is that you will not get 120 at 4K, 60p comes at a 1.5 APS-C crop, and that there is some noticeable rolling shutter, which has shocked a few people because the FX3 has probably the best rolling shutter performance of any mirrorless cinema-focused camera right now, or it's nearly the best. So when you compare it to the FX3, yeah, it's gonna stand out. But if you park your camera on a tripod or on a gimbal or a fluid head, you're not really gonna notice this. It would be really in the run and gun handhold scenario where you're gonna see this. And even when I was hand-holding the camera, if you hand-hold it stable enough, then you're really not gonna see the rolling shutter. So this is a great entry into full frame with all the cinema goodies that FX cameras have, including the addition of that 6-point up display that we find on more expensive cinema-focused cameras. When it comes to the 1.5 crop at 60p, there's also some disappointment with that as well. But again, we have to keep in mind that look at the price of this compared to the FX3, and do you really lose a lot when you get that 1.5 crop? Well, I'll be honest with you, this is just my opinion, but in all the years that I've been shooting both photos and video, and all of our videos for Vistek are shot with the FX30 and the FX3, so APS-C and full frame. I grab both cameras indiscriminately, and I put the lens on that I think I need to put the lens on, and then I evaluate my field of view and all the other things I need to evaluate, and I go, do I need to be further away or closer? Do I need to zoom in, zoom out? I'm making the same decisions. I'm not ever working with the FX30 going, oh, I wish I just had full frame right now. If I do, I haven't recalled that memory. And I work with Super 35 cameras and I work with full frame cameras in the cinema world. And at no point do I ever wish I had one or the other. I just put the lens on that I think I need and I shoot. And I think that is the message that I want to put across, is that you can labor as much as you want about the crop, but ultimately it's not something that's going to stand in the way of you shooting or your creativity. And I think that that is ultimately the most important thing, is if this camera is priced at a point and gives you the right amount of technology that you can go and be creative, that's all that matters. And in terms of stability as well, I want to just kind of go back to that because we have an EVF. And I think that's the biggest story about this camera is the EVF, because it's missing from the FX30, it's missing from the FX3. And that's something I really wish they had, because oftentimes when you're in bright sunlight, you can't see your LCD screen at all at max brightness. And even if you have an Atomos or Blackmagic Video Assist, it's still really hard to see in bright sunlight. So you really rely on having a camera with the EVF to really see, do I have critical focus? Do I have all the detail in my frame that I need to make sure is there or is not there? Do I see dust on the sensor? Things like that. You need an EVF for that. And finally, we have an FX camera with an EVF. Also improved cooling. Of all the reviews I've seen in the testing, it's basically impossible to get this camera to overheat. It's kind of like this really critical update that the FX series needed, but the first time they're trying this is in this sort of mid-range camera, just taking the A7 IV and flipping its use. Now let's talk a little bit about photography on this one. I did take photos with it. The EVF has an articulated asymmetric eye cup. And when you hold the camera in vertical position, it does feel a bit strange. I don't know what the solution to this is. Either you take the eye cup off, you peel the asymmetry back, or you buy an aftermarket eye cup, potentially. I wish that it swiveled like 360 and you could place it any which way you wanted. The lesson here is, number one, it's not that big of a deal. You'll get used to it. It just felt kind of weird to me when I was shooting photos with it, for the one day that I was shooting photos with it. But in reality, if I was a photographer first, it probably would kind of annoy me a little bit. And so I would still prefer to go with something like the A7 IV because of just the ergonomics for photography. But that's really the only downside that I can see. So now I'm going to wrap up just by telling you who this camera is for, and maybe you'll recognize yourself in one of these descriptions. If you shoot more video than photo, but want the ability to shoot photo, this camera is probably for you. If you shoot more outside than you shoot inside, then this camera is probably for you. And that includes people that are generally new filmmakers that don't own any lights yet, that can't even shoot indoors. You're using almost entirely natural light. And in that particular way, the EVF becomes hypercritical. So new filmmakers and those going to film school, it's just right in that perfect financial pocket in terms of the affordable camera that gives you that full frame world, so that you don't have to go, oh, I'm in the APS-C world with some APS-C sensors and now I have to move up and just sort of translate all my gear over to full frame. No, you're jumping right into full frame. And at a price that's just not that much more than APS-C. So it's a really incredible value for that starting out filmmaker. I really like the indestructibility of it in the sense that it just does not overheat. Everything that I've seen about this camera, certainly never overheated on my watch, and Gerald Undone stress tested the heat incredibly well and said like not even close to overheating. So this is probably the first Sony camera, first of like really almost any camera on the market that can be stress tested at that level. And the updated cooling system has really shown its true colors. And it's a great camera for just being in really hot sunlight all day long. Like if that is you, I can't see a better camera in Sony's lineup at this price point, plus or minus $1,000, that's going to work for you. In some sense, the FX2 seems like sort of a Frankenstein camera. They've sort of hobnobbed a bunch of different elements of other product lines together, found a hole in their assortment, and placed it in there. But in truth, it is maybe a bit of that, but it's also really specialized at what it does, and it gets to a market that really needs it. And certainly, I'm now, when I'm working with the FX3 and FX30, kind of wishing that I had that eyepiece. So it's exciting things to come for Sony. I'm sure that that eyepiece is going to show up on some future cameras as well, and some other technology. And that is it for today. As always, please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and comment in the comment section down below, because we all know that you have something to say, and you probably will say it. As always, for me, for now, I'm out. Peace.